Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Air Tycoon Online 3. Today is a pretty fun episode because I just unlocked LA as a hub, and a lot of things are going on. Like, as you can see, I have a shit ton of cash, even though I've just ordered, 10 DC-8s left, just now. And, yeah, basically, a lot of stuff is going on. I have a lot of stuff I want to share. So, first of all, my net profit. Now, my net profit is actually not very good right now. I think it's because of my satisfaction. I've also done a 1% price drop for routes not on 100% occupancy. So hopefully, you know, those kind of things fixes itself. Now, if we take a look at my profit, where is it? Um, I always forget the profit is in the second tab. Uh, but yeah, as you can see, my profit's not great, but it's been on a probably a decline since this turn. I'm guessing it's probably on this turn where my employees went from satisfied to unsatisfied, and as you can see here, a lot of the expenses and decrease in profit is probably just due to the fact that I've been asleep and unable to fill my fuel tank. um, the fuel tank is really significant. Like, as you can see, I was even at a few turns ago 194,000. I think that was around here. Yep. And then it's been on a pretty sharp decline since then, actually. I'm guessing because of something to do with my prices being wrong, and I've just like not been around to fix it. Now, as you can see, exactly 50 name value in LA, so it's time to open a new hub. Um, if we go here, wait, nope, where is it? Let me see if I can remember where the freaking button is to open a new hub. Uh, Maybe it's inside the investment venue itself. That would make sense. Um, Yeah, I wish the GUI was a little bit faster. It is faster than Air Tycoon Online 2, which is nice. So, yep, let's open a new hub, 50,000. Very reasonable. All right. Now, one thing I noticed basically about my company is that routes smaller than expected are completely full. For example, Chicago to La Paz. La Paz looks pretty pitifully small. Even with the poor satisfaction, it is A, full, and B, making good profit. 1.1k doesn't look great, but this is a leased aircraft, so it'd be making about 500k more if it wasn't leased. Same with, for example, Chicago to Salta. That's making very good profit, as you can see. And Chicago to Antofagasta, or however you say that, this is once again a route which is just a half of a stopover to a very small city, making a lot more than I thought. So that makes me think that using stopover routes, I could probably do a lot smaller routes than I previously expected. Basically, I think I could do pretty bad cities, and I think I could still be making a profit. Now, just as an experiment, I made Chicago to Santo Domingo because I think this is a route which will eventually increase in size. And as you can see, despite the shit satisfaction, it's actually not losing money. So basically, what this tells me is using large cities to connect to smaller ones, you can make almost any route work. Now, the beautiful thing about Los Angeles is it's in range of so many, not in range of so many cities, but it's such a large city itself. I think I should be comfortable like connecting Los Angeles to basically every single um, other available city. Like this, for example, would be a prime route to be later upgraded to 747s, because Los Angeles is so big, Casablanca is big, Nagoya is big. Like, this would be an amazing route for a 747. Um, and I think Los Angeles is fantastic because it's so big. Literally everything we make to Los Angeles should be very full. And next turn, when my freaking satisfaction fixes itself, I think we should see some very positive results. Also, we're finally able to make some trans-Pacific routes, which is really nice. Uh, as you can see, we have a few more cities available that people have forgotten about. Um, it's not many, but it's some. And we can just use these to make a lot of stopover routes, which involve, I don't know, probably Europe. I'm not sure how this is going to go. We could do Valencia. It's a bit too far, actually. We could do... Ooh, that's not proper, apparently. Apparently none of those are proper stopover routes, so I guess we'll use something like Toulouse. But as you can see, we also are using basically the maximum range of these aircrafts because Los Angeles is not the closest to a lot of other cities. Basically, it's far. Uh, it being on the west coast of the United States makes it really far from Europe and a little bit harder to use than some other places. Like I'm not going to be using a lot of DC-11s because DC-11s cannot reach Europe. Like they just cannot. So that means I can only use South American cities with DC-11s. So for example, I could do La Paz to Los Angeles and then a stopover to somewhere more than 2,000 kilometers away, like something like that. But as you can see, it's pretty hard to formulate one that actually works. Um, so yeah, I'm not gonna have the option to use a lot of DC-11s or something like that. Uh, and it's not like La Paz to Los Angeles is even in range of a DC-11, so that's not really an option. Most of the options are just gonna be stopovers, um, like the ones I've just done, or stopovers involving Europe, or literally just direct flights involving Europe. Um, there's actually a lot of routes, like for example, Manchester to Los Angeles, which I want to do, but where would I stop them over to? It's just got to be something like that, but it's probably going to tell me, like, it's not a proper stopover route exactly. So there's only a few ways to do that. Like, I could, double back and try and do something like that, but once again, there's just problems. Um, Maybe if I go like something like that, that's probably a proper stopover route. Yep, and probably along this coast. But if I try and go inland a little bit, then eventually, if I get farther east, it'll be improper, but it seems to be decent actually. Thanks to the curvature of the Earth, this angle remains at 90 degrees or above, or at least it looks like it. Maybe not, I can't tell. But anyways, once I have more DC-8s, I'll be right back. Actually, I have a DC-11 in my inventory right now, so let me just try and make a route with that. So let's do San Jose to Chicago, and then we want to do a stopover to somewhere real close. Um, let's see, we want as close as possible. Marek has no airport yet. Oran is small, so we're just gonna ignore that. Palm de Mallorca, um, that seems like a decent one. Am I allowed to do that? Yes, I am. So yeah, we can make like something like this as a route. Wait, actually, close that. Um, because the second leg is 3,500, I only need 6,500 range to make this a proper stopover. So I could probably do something like Leeds. No, Leeds is a bit too close even still, so can't unfortunately do that. Um, yeah, basically one problem is there's a lot more cities in Europe than there are cities in South America and wait, what schedule's available by slot? It's got to be Bilbao, right? Yeah, okay, yeah. Um, then I guess I'll just do Palma de Mallorca. But basically, there's a lot more cities in Europe than there are in North America and South America, which make it kind of difficult to make a lot of stopovers. You have to start to get creative in what stopovers you're making. Sorry, I got interrupted there, but as you can see, I finished making them right. So what I was saying is, you have to be creative in the stopovers you make. Like as you can see, I've used so many of the cities in South America out of necessity, but there's so many cities still available, in Asia and out here, which I haven't, been able to include in a stopover yet, just because there's no corresponding cities in, um, America, basically. So one of the things I'm gonna start doing is gonna start removing a lot of the Tupolev 104s. As you know, I have or 124s. As you know, I have a lot of Tupolev 124s on routes. I think like this. Okay, well that's a Caravel one, but like as you can see, they don't make good profit. So why bother having them when I can replace them um, with a much better route using like that route as a stopover basically. Like I know a lot of these routes, see they're using DC-8s, but that's a competition route. This is probably a DC-8. Yep. And as you can see, these are making a lot better money despite the really poor satisfaction. Um, and yeah, basically I need to just get get all my routes back into like all the cities in North America basically, need to be used for stopovers. Like as you can see, I've even started to request slots in places like Ivern, and I'm gonna like literally request slots in a place like this just to make them into stopovers. I think I now have every single city in South America just to make stopovers with. Um, and almost every city in Central America. Is Cancun have an airport yet? No, it doesn't. Belize City, I'm not sure if Belize City is a little bit too small to use. It might be. But yeah, basically, I'm going to start to use all these cities just so I can also, like if a route like London or Chicago to those tiny cities in South America is profitable, it obviously means Chicago to a city like this or like this or like this. These are probably all profitable. Like, of course, some of these aren't in range, but if all of these are profitable, they're worth making. So that's pretty good indeed. Um, yeah. Later on, when there's 767s, what I can do is I can do a stopover like this, stopover, and then to a city in the 767 range like that, and that will be allowed as a stopover. Now, obviously, this side of the route won't make much of a difference compared to this really long leg, but it's better than a direct flight still. So yeah. All right, so those requests are finally done. They do take a while. So let's make some more routes. Um, all right, what are we looking at? We should focus on getting these routes done because those are probably some of the biggest cities available that I can make routes to LA. So we could do things like this, I guess. In theory, we should do what's closest first. So Maltazazel. My pronunciations really are not getting better over time. Oh well. Um, but yeah, let's get all these routes done. Starting with the bigger cities. Just so you know, I have some systematic way about going this. I'm also either gonna try and make the sum of the ranges to be equal to about exactly as close to 10,000 as possible, or I'm gonna aim to make the sum of the ranges um, as close to like 20,000 as possible, or basically the longest range that the plane can make, because those are the two most efficient ways to do stopovers, in my opinion. I like the closest possible range of 10,000 is nice because it'll allow me to use more of all the cities available in um, in North America, basically, to make stopovers. So yeah, I guess we're gonna be using something like Managua. I'm choosing the bigger cities right now, because of course in the future when I upgrade these routes, I want the good routes like to have both legs of the route be good, so I can choose a very large aircraft, say a 767-400 or 767-300. Whereas with routes which have a smaller combined, then I would like to choose route like smaller aircraft like a 767-200 or or for example later on the smallest 787. Well, I'd use the largest 787 for some of these other routes I'm doing now. And basically it's all a pretty delicate balancing act. So let's order some more DC-862s. Now, I'm wondering if I should still be leasing. Whoops. If I should still be bothering to lease DC-8s, because I'm not sure if I have a use for them. But I guess if I don't, I'll do my best to find the uses for these. So go ahead and order four of those. The problem with leases, of course, is if you do not use your leased aircraft, they actually are just like a pure expense to your company. They won't be making you money, they'll be losing you money. It's not a really good thing to have unused. It's really not a good thing to have unused routes like unused aircraft which are leased. It'll actually cause a large amount of loss. Um, for example, I read on the Air Tycoon Online 3 wiki it recommends never leasing. And I guess that's a pretty decent advice to tell new players don't lease. But if somebody knows what they're doing, even a little bit, I say do not lease is basically the worst advice you could give. Because if somebody actually listens to that, you're basically just telling them to make less money than they could possibly be making. Like, for example, I'm third place right now. Very quickly gonna overtake second. Probably not next turn, due to leasing four aircraft would decrease my value by a lot, temporarily, but it's increasing my profit, which is in the long term the only thing that really matters towards my value. So yeah, basically, I think that anyone who tells you not to lease, is probably either trying to oversimplify things for you, or they just don't know what they're talking about. Because leasing is, in fact, one of the most beneficial things you can do to your company most of the time. Now, as you can see, I can just barely reach the south coast of Spain, uh, and there's no available slots, so I'm not sure if a route like this works. Yep, it's no longer a proper route, apparently. Maybe if I go to something like Agadir, that works. I think Agadir's a bit out of range, though. So maybe I could use South America now. Sao Paulo, out of range. Brasilia, in range. Uh, what can I use, which is probably not gonna interfere with too much else? Probably something like that. That's probably a good one. Let me do that. I'm not sure if I should be making these routes first, just in case I'm gonna need to use some of these South American cities for later stopovers. I'm not sure, but anyways, we'll just keep going because LA is at the end of the day such a big city. LA to literally any city with an airport in the world will be full, especially if you make it into a stopover route, as you can see I'm doing. Um, Now that stopover routes have to use stopover capable cities as the middle point, it's actually really, really limiting in how many stopover routes I can find as, possibilities. Like previously, I'd be able to make tons and tons of stopover routes and not ever really have to think about how I'm making them. You just make them and it's great. But now that you have to use the middle city as a stopover enabled city, it's actually very, very difficult, um, to find many, many good stopover routes. Like, you have to be very creative in the way you actually set up your stopovers to manage to use every city. Like, for example, if I'm doing LA or London, right? I want to connect basically every single city to LA and London because those cities are big enough to support the route, like between literally any city with an airport. So, for example, if I want to use every single one of these cities, I have to be a little bit creative in the manner of which these stopovers exist. For example, right now, if I want to make a stopover, I probably have to do something like this. Um, Beirut to Georgetown, like some random garbage like this to San Jose, that would work too. Um, or to something in North America, but as you can see, there's simply not very many cities left in North America. Um, there are some, but not many. And this is one of the cities which is relatively far south, so I actually can do a route like this, and it's still a proper stopover, which is nice. So, for example, I might make this route right now, but I selected the wrong airport in London, I think. So, how do I cancel this? Yep, basically, yep, I need to use that airport, and now I should be allowed to make this stopover. But yeah, basically, what I'm saying is it is really hard to make every single route into a stopover nowadays because you have to be very creative and you have to find cities like basically on opposite sides of the world that allow you to make stopovers. And I'm not even sure if it's possible for, all cities. Like for example, Singapore, there's tons of cities in range above it basically, like in terms of like in Europe and such, but there's almost nothing available on the other side. So, for example, Singapore. I'm making stopovers involving Singapore. Well, if I'm connecting to Europe, right? There's so many cities over here, but there's only a few cities over here. I basically have to use every city here to make stopovers to the cities over here. Like as you can see, almost all the stopover capable cities already have routes to them because, people have want to make the stopovers and they've just done so. So, like, um yeah, it's going to be a struggle later on in the game. to continue to make every single route into a stopover, which I will continue to do because I still think it is by far the most profitable way to do a company, basically. Um, yeah, I still don't see a way of comfortably beating the strategy of just, all stopovers. But, anyways, I'm going to wait for some of these slot requests to finish, and I'll be right back. And we are finally back, and let's, of course, get our slot request for Los Angeles ticking again. But, yeah, just going back to make more and more routes, of course. Let's do Gothenburg to Los Angeles, and gotta pick a stop. Let's see, I'm curious, am I allowed to make stops this way? Like, not a proper stopover route? Well, too bad. Is this a proper stopover route? Yes, it is indeed. Not bad. Well, I only have 4 DC8s left, so this episode's not going to be much longer. I'm probably not going to wait for that last 4 DC8s to finish, because you guys definitely get the idea of what I'm doing now. Um, just, your basic stopover routes. Very, very understandable. Um, yeah, I'm sure anyone watching these could probably go into your world if it's around a similar date, find most of these routes and claim them with, similar aircraft, and you guys will actually probably have very like um can kind of imitate these routes, and I'm pretty sure it'll work. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't. So yeah, uh, like all these routes are basically like they're basically in a state where you can do the exact same thing, and it's guaranteed basically to make a profit. Like if you can find Los Angeles to Glasgow or Los Angeles to any of these cities I'm making now, it's literally impossible to lose money, even if you fly them direct. Um, just because Los Angeles is such a large city. I think it's the largest city in this world. So yeah, when we find routes like Los Angeles to Hamburg or some shit like that, it's literally impossible to lose money. I wonder if I can find a Asian stopover route.